All right, so thanks everyone for joining this session. Hope you're interested in learning how to build your first virtual assistant to handle support inquiries for some retail store. So you can imagine that if you might call a store and you've got all sorts of questions for them, like how do I get to your store, or when are you open, or can I schedule an appointment? So we'll start very simply. We'll just do some basic question and answer. And then we'll expand that to give a little bit more dynamic responses. I'll show you how to do some process flows. Again, first we'll start very simply with a static process flow, and then we'll make it a bit more dynamic. And finally, I'll show you how we can escalate if the bot frequently doesn't understand the user, so that the user isn't trapped in a system that's not working well for them. We're going to start here with Watson Assistant. So this is the platform I'm most familiar with. I do some demos of Watson Assistant in the book, and so we're gonna create the assistant right here during this session. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a dialog skill, and I'll call this let's say creating virtual assistants Twitch demo. And that's all there is to it. So right now I've got a brand new skill, which is basically the scaffolding for my virtual assistant or for my chatbot. And right now it can't really do that much, right? Because I've just created a brand new empty skill. And the first thing I want to do is I want to understand what my users are saying. And so generally when a user is speaking to me, I want to figure out what's the intent. What are they really getting after? And a chatbot is trained by example. So we need intents, and we need examples for each of those intents. Now, luckily for me, there's some sample content that I can use, and I can add right to my assistant. And I'm going to add this customer care set. And so while that's being added, let's take a quick look at what that actually is. So I've got a handful of intents here, about 18 intents. And these are common things that people might want out of a customer care virtual assistant. So like I alluded to earlier, people might want to schedule appointments. They may want to figure out what's the best way to get in contact with you. They may want to find out, hey, when are you open, or where are you located, right? So this is a great set of intents that I can start with. And these are pre-trained. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see that for each of these, I have a bunch of examples. If someone's going to ask for store hours, it may look like, are you open during Thanksgiving? Or are the stores open early? Or what time does your store open on Saturday? These are all examples of how somebody might ask for store hours. And my assistant is trained with these examples, and from them, it's going to recognize the intent. Now, the great thing about this training by example is, you can imagine there might be a million different ways that you could ask for store hours. But in fact, I'm only training it with a handful of examples. In this case, I'm training it with 20. And the assistant is going to learn from these 20 examples how to sort of infer or interpret the rest. So let's go ahead and give our assistant a little spin. So we're going to be making a lot of use out of this Watson Assistant testing interface. It's got a lot of cool features that I like, and I'm going to call them out to you. Again, first thing, it's starting here. Very basic greeting message. Hello, how can I help you? So let's try it out. Let's try, when do you close the store tonight? And it says, hey, that must be a customer care store hours request, right? And in fact, that's what it is, right? I was trying to figure out what are the hours for the store. And I can even see that, not only did it predict the store hours intent, but by using this little debugger tool, I can see it predicted it with pretty high confidence. So not only did it know the right answer, but it was very sure that it got the right answer. That's good news for me, and we can go into that more a little bit later. Oh, we'll see also that right now the assistant, even though it's identifying the intent, it's saying, hey, I didn't understand you. And that's because we haven't coded it to actually give a proper response to store hours. But while we're doing that, why don't we test out some other questions, such as how, let's say, where is the nearest store? And so it says, hey, that's a store location question. Again, very, very high confidence. It's pretty sure that that's what it is. I could ask other questions like, I need to set up an appointment. And that's an appointments intent. Again, very high confidence. Or I'd like to apply for a job. Employment inquiry. So we can see here that the assistant is very good at identifying the intent right out of the gate, just because of that sample data that I uploaded at the very beginning. But it's a little unsatisfying that it's not answering these questions very well. So let's configure the assistant to start responding a little bit more helpfully. So let's take a couple of these intents and provide an answer. So the first one we're going to do is store hours. We'll say if the assistant recognizes customer care store hours, we'll say our stores are open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. Very simple response. Let's do another one here. So we'll do another one for store location. Say customer care store location. I'll say we have stores at 123 Maple Street and 456 Elm Drive. Very simple to configure simple question and answer responses. So let's give it a shot here. See if the assistant does any better. So I'm going to clear my testing screen and start asking some new questions. And I'll say again, what time do you open tomorrow? Okay, so it again recognized this as a customer care store hours, which is great, very high confidence. And it also said our stores are open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. So perfect, it's going through our dialog. The other thing I like out of this testing interface is that I can use this little tracer icon to figure out where and why I'm going through the conversation. So when I click on this here, it's going to tell me, hey, this blue box represents the node that I used to satisfy this conversation. So it's a nice sanity check that, yes, it was a store hours question, and I, in fact, did go to the store hours response. So let's try another one here. Where are you located? So again, customer care store location, and it says we have stores at 123 Maple Street and 456 Elm Drive. Looks like I got a typo there. Why don't we go ahead and fix that? So we have stores at that location. But as far as a simple question answer response, that's all there is to it. So let's make this a little bit more interesting. We've said that, hey, there are in fact two different stores. There's the Maple store and the Elm store. And if I ask a question specifically about one of those stores, I'd really like to get a response just for that store. It doesn't make sense to tell me about the Maple store if I'm going to Elm, or vice versa. So we can test out what would happen here. We say, where is the Elm store located? So right now, I'm going to get an answer about both of the stores. And let's say that's a little bit unfriendly. Again, the person asking the question was pretty specific, and we gave kind of a generic answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something called entities. And the entities are going to help us recognize the different stores that we're talking about. So I'm going to create an entity here called store location. And I'm going to create within this store location, I'm going to include values for each of the stores I'm interested in. So the first one is for Elm, and I'm going to do a couple synonyms for it as well. I'm going to do Elm Drive, and I'll do Elm itself. And for Maple, I'll do the same thing. So Maple was Maple Street. We'll do Maple, the short version, and Maple lowercase. And while I'm adding that, I'll call out this neat feature here called fuzzy matching. Fuzzy matching is going to help us identify these stores even if we get them spelled wrong, which I think is a pretty cool feature as well. So we can see right now Watson is training. Watson is training because I've updated the training data. Anytime I update the intents or the entities, Watson's going to automatically retrain itself. But we've got some work to do while it's retraining anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new store hours response, and we're going to be paying attention to whether or not a specific store is located. So we'll do first here store hours. We'll call it generic. Actually, we'll just call this, we'll leave it as store hours. I'm going to do customer care store hours. And we're going to give it some child nodes. So the first is going to be Elm. So if the assistant recognizes store hours and it recognizes Elm, we're going to say our Elm location is at 456 Elm Drive. We'll do another one for Maple. And I'm labeling each of my dialog nodes. This is just a handy way for me to keep track of them and to see what I'm specifically doing in these. It's sort of like a comment field. So for the Maple store, I'll say our Maple store is at 123 Maple Street. I can use my generic response, and I'm going to move it into the same tree. So I've got my generic response of, oh my goodness, I've been doing the wrong one the whole time. All right, we will fix that. We'll move this as a child to store location. We'll move this below. And let's see, this one here. I'm going to delete it all together. Oh, maybe I won't do that. I'm going to move store hours below. That's the one I want to keep. This is the one I want to remove. Actually, we'll just call the store location now. Good. All right, perfect. And I'm going to this is a child. There we go. Move this as a child of this guy. And this one, the generic one, we're going to move as a child. So we're going to move it to below there. Okay, perfect. So this is my parent. And I'm not going to respond, but instead I'm going to look at my child nodes. So what I've done here is when it comes in and we recognize a store location request, we're going to check the children, if any of the children nodes are true, first of all. So if it's store location and it's about Elm, we're going to give the specific Elm response. If it's store location in Maple, we're going to give the Maple response. And if it's neither of those existing stores, we're going to give the generic response. So let's go ahead and test that. So I'm going to say, where is the Elm store located? And it says, hey, it's located at 456 Elm Street. I can use my tracer and figure out that, hey, it went through both of these two nodes. Great. I can say, where is the Maple store? And I'm intentionally misspelling it. So it recognized, hey, you probably wanted Maple. That's close enough with the fuzzy matching. And sure enough, our Maple store is at 123 Maple Street. And I can ask generically, where is the store nearest me? And it's going to say, it's going to give me the generic response. I have stores at 123 Maple and 456 Elm. This shows how I can give a bit more of a dynamic response.